Okay. Um, so hopefully that's good. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Um, so this is my first live stream, so please again be a little patient if you can. If I might have some technical issues, but hopefully this goes really smoothly. For the people who are listening on Twitter, I'm not going to be accepting people to speak because I uh, don't know how to do that. So you can also hear it on YouTube. So, but if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comments and I'll check it throughout the stream. So, yeah, that's how we'll do it today. And if I could figure out a way to invite speakers and have it connect with both, then we'll do that in the future. But yeah, so today I wanted to hop on live to chat about what's going on TikTok with the pro Hamas movement. I tend to call it pro Hamas. I don't call it pro Palestine because, well, Palestine isn't a real place. And I think that it really that's what the movement is. It's in support of Hamas against Israel. So I'm going to call it pro Hamas throughout this stream, just so that you know what I'm talking about. They call themselves the pro Palestine movement. And I wanted to talk about what's going on mostly what's happening on TikTok right now, but really it's kind of the self-destruction of that whole movement. If you're not familiar with what's going on, there has been a lot of conflict between big advocates for uh, Palestine, quote unquote, for Hamas, and it's been over the election coming up. So there's been a lot of debate over whether or not to vote for Kamala Harris and what the repercussions of that will be. So I kind of wanted to start this stream by talking about why I am really interested in this topic, and bring a little bit of my background into this because I think it will help explain what really is going on. So if you're not familiar, well, first of all, hi, my name is Kaya. I don't think I introduced myself earlier, but I used to be anti-Israel. I used to hate Israel as much as all of these people that you see running around college campuses, burning American flags. That probably would have been me if what is happening now happened when I was in college. And the reason that I hated Israel wasn't because I had any understanding of what's happening in the region or the history of the region. It was because I was super woke and I believed in identity politics and the oppression Olympics. Um, from a young age, I was told that because I'm black, well, I still am black, I am oppressed, and I'm oppressed, not because of necessarily anything that's happening to me, but because of I'm a part of a group that is considered victims or really considered unsuccessful. But I looked at my life and I never really dealt with anything that would be considered oppression. I did well in school. Um, I have a career that I really like. I've considered myself to be pretty successful, but because I'm black, I'm supposed to consider myself oppressed. And because I'm oppressed, I am supposed to team up with and side with other groups, quote unquote, that are also oppressed. And this included the Palestinians or the people who are living in Gaza and the West Bank. Um, because according to the Oppression Olympics and the identity politics hierarchy, certain races, again, are considered more successful than others. Whites, Jews, Asians are considered near the top, the most successful, and then Blacks, Hispanics, brown people are considered near the bottom. So the way that the Israel conflict was communicated to me was you have what they would say were white Europeans who were in Israel who were oppressing the people who were brown who were living in the region. And that was really all that I needed in order to come to the conclusion at the time that Israel was bad, because that was how I determined most of my decisions was just who's more oppressed according to this hierarchy, that's who I'm supposed to side with. But over time, I realized that that wasn't an accurate way of describing or of determining anything because, like I said, if you are determining it by group and not actually looking into the facts of what's going on. Like if I wasn't looking at my life and seeing that, I'm not oppressed, right? I'm really just detached from reality at that point. Um, and I was just detached from what was really happening in Israel. And when I realized that, oh, there are facts and there's information and there's context, and I need to look at each individual situation and each individual person and see in their context, are they actually being mistreated or actually having these really unfair things happening to them? That was when I realized, okay, this hierarchy is bullshit, and what's happening in Israel is not what I was told. Um, I'm sure that most of you have heard the accusations that Israel is, or I guess at the time, the biggest accusation was that they were an apartheid state. But when you actually look at the laws there, you'll see that that's obviously not true. People there of all different races and religions are treated equally under the law if they're citizens of the country. And that's the truth. That's the reality that's there. But a lot of the people now who hate Israel, they hate it for the same reason that I did. It's not looking at what's happening there, actually looking at the laws, seeing that the things that they're saying about it aren't true, like that they're an apartheid state, or now the accusations that they're committing genocide, which are not true. If you know anything that happened on October 7th, you should know this isn't genocide, this is a war of self-defense. But they don't care about those things. They don't care about the facts of what's happening over there or the reality of the laws or decisions being made. What they care about is who is considered more oppressed according to their arbitrary hierarchy, and that's who they're going to go with blindly. Um, and I guess maybe I should specify this isn't necessarily every single person. There are some people who I do think know what is going on over there and are they just hate like Jewish people and want them dead. And that's really, I mean, it's unfortunate that people are that evil, but it's true. But I do think that for a lot of the people, especially the ones we're going to be talking about today on TikTok, I think most of them are misinformed. I think most of them just have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, and it's less of a intense hatred of just wanting to kill people and just the fact that they are blinding themselves really to what's going on. And so I wanted to play a clip that I think will kind of explain what I'm talking about with the whole oppressed hierarchy. Let me see if I can pull it up on the screen here. See this one. And hopefully the guys on Twitter will be able to hear this as well.
Two minutes. What am I to do with all this time? Allow me to point out that you are supporting Israel solely for the reason that they look like you. Light hair, light eyes. We all know that the only people who successfully get to cry victim are people who look like that. Keep in mind that Israel is in the Middle East, where the population of surrounding countries look like me and a majority of the people in this room. Kind of makes you wonder, right? How did those people get there? The same way you all got here, slaughtering natives, stealing land, and claiming it as your own. And one day, we will receive the same pitiful reparations and apologies that were given to the Native Americans, African Americans, Vietnamese, Holocaust victims, and the list goes on and on and on and on because we continue to repeat history instead of learning from it. Do you mind? Thank you. I don't want apologies. I want preventative measures and empathy at the very least, but even that seems too much to ask for. Ceasefire now. 2 minutes.
Now, I want everyone to actually like think about what she right? So the first thing that she talks about immediately is, I look one way, they look a different way, right? This is about color and race, and you are only siding with them because they look a certain way. I'm siding with my people because they look a certain way. And that's, again, it's such a silly way to look at this conflict in terms of, my color versus your color when there's so much more going on. And she doesn't talk about these things, right? She says that the people are being killed, but she doesn't talk about October 7th. She doesn't mention the fact that Gaza started this, right? She talks about a few other things throughout history and says these are exactly the same, these are genocides, not mentioning October 7th, not mentioning the fact that this is a war, that the Hamas started it. It is entirely, trying to play to people's emotions and say, look, the white people, quote unquote, are hurting the brown people. And if you adhere to my hierarchy, then you should know that the white people are bad. And that's the entirety of her argument and the entirety of a lot of people's arguments on this. It's really unfortunate how many people who get such big platforms like this are not informed and aren't talking about what's actually going on and are just trying to appeal to emotion using this stupid hierarchy. It makes me really, it makes me upset and it makes me sad for them. Um, I don't know. I wish more people just cared about understanding what was really going on. But this whole hierarchy, the whole mentality that they have, this is why you end up seeing people or these movements, I guess, that are supporting Hamas and are considered pro-Palestine movements, things like Queers for Palestine and Blacks for Palestine, these movements where it seems like supporting Hamas would be not in their best interest, right? Of Gaza and, well, I guess kind of most of the Arab world was very, very involved in the slave trade. There's still a lot of racism in the Middle East against Black people. Obviously, Hamas is not friendly towards uh, gay people. So you would think that queers for Palestine wouldn't exist, that gay people wouldn't want to support a group that wants them dead. But again, I think a lot of these people don't actually know what's going on. Maybe they don't care and they just think that the hierarchy is more important than what's going on. But I do think for a lot of them, they probably aren't even aware. I've seen people on social media talking about how they think if Hamas was going to take over all of Israel and create one big country, there would be a liberal democracy there and gay people would be able to live their lives. Those people obviously don't know what Hamas is or what they want, but they support it anyways. And I think it's because of this hierarchy that they just think oppressed, quote unquote, oppressed people, arbitrarily defined oppressed people, all need to stick together no matter what. And so I've got a few more clips with people pretty much talking about this. So here is another one.
Washington, D.C. is packed with tens of thousands of protesters today to march for a free Palestine. Behind me, there's an entire block of queer people who feel compelled to stand for Gaza. I'm Afif Nasuli, and I'm here to find out why.
It's important for me to be here today as a queer person because the liberation of my people is queer liberation. You can't have one without the other.
I feel like every single queer person should be for Palestinian liberation because all of our liberation is tied to each other.
Oppression is oppression. It's intersectional. If you're oppressing queer people or Black people or Palestinian people, It's all really the same thing.
We care about our queer family in the Middle East, whether or not they have the rights that allow them to be their true selves just yet. We have to envision a future where they can be free, and that starts with freeing Palestine to begin with.
There are queer people in Palestine, there are queer people everywhere, and we have to stand together against oppression, against apartheid, against all these brutal systems.
We're here as human beings for the advocacy of other people's rights, so it's just something that comes natural to queer people, I guess.
When you live oppression, it's hard for you to watch other people be oppressed. And so if you're for liberation for yourself, then you need to be for liberation of everybody.
Showing up to fight the oppression of everyone. Liberation for all means liberation for all.
Can you explain your sign?
Yeah, it says Strikes for Palestine because I think it's precisely important to show that it is a queer issue to fight for liberation, that it's a queer issue to stand up against genocide.
And I'm wearing a pride keffiyeh, which is a great way to show the intersectionality of my identity, and I'm super proud of it.
I'm wearing the trans flag because I want to signal to the Palestinian community that I am with them, not only as a Jewish person, not only as a trans person, that we are in this together.
So, whew. Yeah, I don't know. I think that a lot of these people who are so for Hamas, for the liberation of Palestine, I think that they just don't know what's going on over there. I don't think that they've done their research. I don't think they understand how Hamas sees them, that Hamas, I mean, kills its own members who they're even suspected of being gay. They would not accept you there. They would kill you if they could. They've said that they want to eliminate Western culture and eliminate people in the West to go against them. They want you dead. But people will go support things that are not for their best interest when they just ignore reality. And it's, again, just really unfortunate. But anyways, I wanted to show just a little bit about like what's going on, why I think people are supporting Hamas so staunchly, and kind of explain that first before going into what's happening on TikTok, because this is all going to tie in. So this argument about whether or not to vote for Kamala Harris is not a new argument. It started actually back when Biden was the nominee. There were a lot of people on Twitter that I saw, not so much on TikTok, but I'm sure the discussion was still there, with people talking about whether or not to vote for him, given that he has sent aid to Israel. And Biden, even though he goes back and forth, it seems like on the day, day by day, in regards to whether he wants to keep supporting Israel. Sometimes he seems like he wants to give aid. Sometimes he's threatening to take it away. Sometimes he's threatening to block trade threatening to block our relations with them. But he has supported them at times during this war. And so Kamala Harris, being a part of his administration, then adopts that legacy of him supporting Israel. And a lot of the people who are supporting Hamas have said it's not right to support Biden because we think that he's aiding Israel and Israel is our enemy. So they would vote. They've been saying they were going to vote either third party or they're not going to vote at all, and they're going to kind of protest this election to protest what they see as, an injustice happening in the Middle East. But the alternative, if Biden loses, would then be that Trump wins. And for a lot of these people, because they're woke leftist types, they don't want Trump to win either. Trump's domestic policies and his whole character, his rhetoric, all goes against what they believe. So what do they do, right? Some people have said that they will still vote for Kamala because they believe in her domestic policies and they don't want Trump to win. And then there are the others who, again, don't want to vote for her because they believe that she's part of this administration that was supporting Israel. But that's led to then a big conflict of if you call yourself pro-Palestine, or you're pro-Hamas, what is the right way to vote this election? Um, and there's been quite a bit of back and forth on this, with people arguing their points. I want to pull up a TikTok video that I think shows the side, really, of the people who want to vote for Kamala and how they are feeling about this. Mhm.
Anyone who thinks that
Oh,
queer
wait,
people.
this is the wrong one. Oops, this one.
I'm sorry, but there is just no way I'm going to vote this year. Oh, why is that? Well, of course I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but I also cannot support what's going on in Palestine, so I cannot vote for the Democrats. So I'm going to not vote for my moralistic integrity. Oh, so your reason for not voting is based on a desire for morals and having a good moral ethic? Exactly, you get it. So in this misguided attempt to protect the Palestinian people, you are putting all women in harm's way in America? Putting all disabled people in harm's way in America. Well, now hold on a sec. Well, no. It's that you said that this is about moralistic integrity. So you, like us, are weighing your morals. So the necessity to stick it to them is also more moralistically sound than making sure that 5% of all immigrants in our country don't get deported? No, it's not about any of this. I just cannot support what is going on over there. Oh, I can't support it either, but at the same time, I have enough logic and understanding to see the big picture. If we vote for them, it's going to continue in Palestine. If you don't vote for them, it's going to continue in Palestine. It'll actually go by a lot quicker because Trump said finish the job. You are gaslighting and shaming me because I don't support what's going on over there. No, I'm not gaslighting you, but I am shaming you for not logically thinking. Your moralistic integrity is going to put Trump in the White House, which is going to make life harder for every American, which leads to one thought. What thought is that? You are too privileged to see the big picture. You are too lost in your own mind to be able to see the amount of people you are hurting because of this. The Palestinian people you are hurting by choosing not to vote. You are making things worse for everyone. And at this point, I have no real justification or understanding. I have no patience for you anymore. So you're shaming me. If Trump wins and Project 2025 is implemented, I'll write shame on every person's forehead who did not vote.
So that's a pretty good summary of just what's going on right now. But there has been a lot of pushback again from the pro-Hamas side, of people really, really doubling down on the fact that they cannot vote. Like, morally speaking, it would be wrong, according to them, to vote at all, or to vote for either of the two candidates this election. And this video went viral on Twitter pretty recently, a few days ago, but I'm going to play it anyways to hear kind of the other side of how people are looking at this and thinking about this.
I never thought I would be one of those people that comes crying on the internet, and if my English is not comprehensible, it's fine. It's not my first language, but this has to be said. I'm so sick. I'm so sick and tired of Americans playing your identity politics. I'm so sick of it. You were all able to comprehend pinkwashing. You were all able to comprehend how using one's identity in the name of fucking... You were all able to comprehend how pinkwashing is fucked up. That killing people in the name of something is fucked up. You were able to comprehend it when it came to queerness and pinkwashing, but you're not able to comprehend it when it comes to race. You're coming on the internet, telling Palestinians how they're playing oppression Olympics, how there's other genocides. We are very well aware. We're from the global south. We are aware to what's happening. I'm fucking half Iraqi and half Palestinian. We are aware of the oppression that's happening, and it's never because of us, it's because of you. It's fucking because of you. It's your government. It's the people that you keep voting, and it's your tax money. I've never been in the US, and I never fucking will be. Never fucking will be. You guys are fucking whack. You're insane. You're so beyond selfish. It's fucking insane. A black woman in fucking presidency is not gonna save us. And no, I'm not fucking saying vote Trump in. Fucking do something. Do something. I'm so sick and tired of this. Do something. It's your responsibility. What more do you need to see? What more images need to come out of Sudan, Congo, fucking Palestine, any of those countries? What do you need to fucking see to fucking start acting and realizing you're the fucking problem? You're the fucking problem. No one's stone policing you. No one's telling you not to fucking speak up. Speak up, but do not speak up when it comes to oppressing my people. I don't give a fuck anymore. I don't give a fuck anymore. It's fucking also white people. It's all of you. It's fucking all of you. Every fucking race in fucking America has oppressed us. Black people also wear a uniform and get on a plane and come to our countries and kill us. You vote the same fucking melanated fucking people into government that sign papers to kill us. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it. You are our colonizers. I do not want to fucking hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm done. I'm fucking done.
Okay, that video's long, so I want to stop it there. But yes, so this debate has gone from talking about trying to weigh domestic policy versus international policy when it comes to voting and turned it into the oppression Olympics, but within the movement of who is more oppressed, I guess Arabs or people from the Middle East or Black Americans. And it's kind of has specifically targeted Black Americans. I'm not sure why that happened and not like any other movement or demographic, but that's what this discussion has turned into. And that is what has been happening on TikTok. So there have been a lot of videos like the one that I just played where some of these Arab or Middle Eastern influencers are kind of specifically talking about how Black people are colonizers. And then some influencers who are Black American have been responding and saying that how dare you call us colonizers, we're more oppressed. And then it's been going back and forth with no, we're more oppressed. No, we're more oppressed. And so I wanted to make this video talking about this, not because I actually care about who they vote for, but because I wanted to really point out what happens when you use this arbitrary oppressor hierarchy, when this false victim mentality is how you make all of your decisions, including your political decisions. Like, these two groups or these two kind of demographics within the pro-Hamas movement claim to want the same thing, but because they don't have a definition of oppressed, because they don't really have any facts around what's going on in the US or in the Middle East, the only way that they can talk to each other, I mean, talk to each other maybe is giving them too much credit, but the only way that they can have conversations is by yelling at each other and crying and being emotional and saying, no, I'm more oppressed, no, you're more oppressed, right? It's just fighting over this word that, like, neither of them can define. And it just ends up making a mess of things. And I don't think it should be surprising that this movement's falling apart just because that's been the basis of the movement, right? Arguing over who is more arbitrarily oppressed without understanding anything. So they can't have conversations with each other. They can't talk through this rationally. It's just purely emotion, crying back and forth. Some of it has just turned into racist slurs back and forth, which also shouldn't be surprising given how racist this movement has been towards Jews, towards really anybody who disagrees with them. But I mean, specifically the anti Semitism that's been just horrific to see. racism shouldn't be a surprise. But I don't know, this whole thing, I am kind of happy that it's blowing up this way because I think that they dug themselves into this hole of, again, just fighting over like mystical their feelings about how oppressed they are, and now it's coming to bite them in the ass. And I don't feel bad about the fact that the movement's falling apart. It was never based on anything real to begin with. And I think that now is a time where hopefully people will wake up. Hopefully people will start to see that this was bullshit from the beginning. They'll start to see that, yeah, this movement was never advocating for anything in their best interest. And maybe they'll start to question the oppressor oppressed hierarchy to start with because they'll see that doesn't lead them anywhere. But I don't know. A girl can dream, I guess. Um, as far as the election coming up, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if these people are going to vote for Kamala or not. But I mean, if they decide not to vote, if a large majority of these people decide not to vote, then they're going to hand it to Trump, and then they're going to blame it on them being so oppressed. But it's really going to be their own actions, right? It's going to be them prioritizing this stupid advocacy that's, again, just based on nothing over whatever policies they actually want in the country. Um, all right, I want to take a sec and see if there are like any questions or comments that I should respond to. Um, let me see. I don't really see any in the YouTube chat. Let me check the Twitter chat. Okay. I don't see any questions, so I think I'll wrap it up really quickly. I this was again my first live stream. I wanted to talk about this pretty quickly and just throw my thoughts out. I think it went pretty well. I'm thinking about doing more of these in the future. I usually try to make YouTube videos that go up once a week, but sometimes just getting those together, editing them takes time. And if there's like a current event happening, I want to get it up, like my thoughts out there quicker, so I might start doing these more often. But let me know if you guys like enjoyed this, if you prefer my typical videos or typical content. Again, this was this was my very first one, so hopefully next time it'll go a little bit smoother. Even though there weren't really any technical issues, which was great. Okay, so someone is asking me in the YouTube chat, can I talk a bit about protests at the DNC in Chicago? If these protests are the ones that I've been seeing with the like pro-Hamas people going in and trying to protest and try to get, I guess, Kamala to change her policy when it comes to Israel, then I I mean, like I said at the beginning, this entire movement is like not based on any on reality at all. So I don't support what they're doing, um, or like the foundational the ideas that they're trying to promote. But what do I think about them protesting the DNC? There have been a lot of posts that I've seen questioning why they're protesting the Democrats and not the Republicans. I think that is definitely an interesting question. It seems like it's because they're leaning more towards wanting to vote the Democrats into office. They want to pressure them in changing their policy because there's like no way they're voting for Trump anyways. Um, but I mean, protesting might get Kamala to change her policy because the Democrats are so like desperate for votes right now with that last minute switch up. But I think that really like overall, it's probably going to just turn more people against them, seeing how kind of crazy they've been acting. I think a lot of people, again, especially with what's happening right now with this conflict between, are you either pro Arab or pro Black, or are you pro the domestic policies or pro the international policies? I think it's going to turn off a lot of the people who were planning on voting Democrat to see that people are putting this international issue above domestic policy. Um, those are just my thoughts, though. I haven't looked super in depth into exactly what's happening at this specific protest. I'm I'm talking, I guess I've seen them protesting a few of like Kamala's speeches and stuff, but I can definitely look more into this specific protest and maybe post something later if there's something, yeah, specific that I'm missing as far as context. Let's see. Is there anything else? Okay, I have a comment from Twitter. Why do I think these competing movements within these leftist circles will eat each other? They still agree on philosophical fundamentals. Yeah, so they all agree on the oppression Olympics, and they agree on the idea that you have to support people based on oppression. But again, because this term oppression is so loosely defined, like because they're so detached from reality on everything, there's going to be conflict. If it's just based on my feelings, my internal perception of my group versus your internal perception of your group, then there's going to be conflicts because no one can actually root what they're advocating for in anything other than their feelings and their emotions or their desire to be a part of the oppressed group. So that's why I think they're gonna keep eating each other. Um, because I think that's just the hierarchy itself is so nonsensical that you can't actually like consistently uphold it. And we've seen this a bit in other movements, like even in the LGBT movement, there has been fighting, not big right now, but fighting in the past about like, well, who's more oppressed? I don't know, a gay trans woman or a Black lesbian or like whatever. And it doesn't, those questions are so silly and they don't matter. Again, especially because the term oppression doesn't have a definition in their view. But as long as these questions are going to keep coming up of, who is more oppressed and how do we determine what to do in a situation based on that, yeah, the movements are going to fall apart if they use this as their foundation. Let's see. What do I think of what's happened with Candace Owens? I actually thought about making like a video about this. Like I thought maybe my next live stream would be about Candace Owens. If that's something people are interested in, let me know if should be my next topic. So I'll give a quick, brief thoughts on it right now. It's really sad what's happened to her. I used to be, I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of hers, but I definitely had more respect for her in the past. I started listening to her when she was talking about Black Lives Matter and kind of the idea that you don't have to vote for the Democrats if you're Black. It seemed like she was kind of anti collectivist and saying, be your own person, think for yourself. And I that message is something that I agree with a lot, that you shouldn't be voting or determining things based on your race. But over time, obviously that probably was never her message to start with, even though that was what I thought she was saying. I think that she very much is a collectivist. And I first started to realize that she was going crazy uh, last year with the Kanye West situation when she was defending him. And so the fact that she's gone downhill this like to this point where she's spreading all these conspiracy theories, it unfortunately doesn't surprise me, just given how she was last year with handling that situation. But it's sad because I think that she had the potential to do something that was really positive for like online political discourse, but she's just turned into like another I'm just asking questions, quote unquote, you know, person who isn't really asking questions, is just trying to throw out craziness and pretend like it's logical when it's not. And so, yeah, I don't have a lot of respect for her. Um, it looks like some people are interested in maybe me making that video. So yeah, I could definitely do that and talk about just her career and how my view of her has definitely drastically changed over time, and it's just been really, really unfortunate to see. Okay, what causes you to learn the truth? What was the turning point? Do you remember a specific instance or event that happened, whether in your life or in general? Yeah, this is a really good question. And I have a video pinned on my YouTube channel. That's my walk away stories. That's the whole thing. It's, I think, maybe 20 minutes or close to that. So if you want to hear all of the details, it's there. But so again, I'll just give a quick kind of summary here of my journey. So I was definitely raised in a very identity politics centric household and environment. My school that I grew up in had like a DEI program that was really intense. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, if you don't know what that means, it's pretty much where they teach you the hierarchy in school and tell you that if you belong to certain races, you're either an oppressor or you're oppressed, and that's how you should see the world. And so for a while, that was how I saw the world. It's how I determined my relationships, some of the like clubs that I would join in school. And eventually I started to kind of see cracks in that what I believed about other people, like yeah, what I believed about other people wasn't in line with reality. Like I believed that all white people hated me. And then I started to notice that, well, not all white people are being mean to me and they're not all trying to hurt me. So what, starting questioning, well, why do I believe this then? Um, the moment that changed everything actually had to do with like the gender identity stuff. Um, so was in the hospital and I was in the hospital for a really long time and I needed to have like everything done for me. And I realized that I needed a female nurse. This was when I was in college. I needed a female nurse to take care of me because that would have been the safest option and the one that would have made me the most comfortable. But at the time, I was so caught up in the idea that there was no such thing as male and female. If you acknowledge this, then you're hurting people. That I I questioned, do I need to choose my safety or do I choose not offending somebody? Um, and it started to make me realize just, okay, if I'm questioning my safety uh, and trying to put other people's feelings over my safety, there's a problem with what I'm thinking. And I need to reevaluate this and kind of reevaluate it from the bottom up. Because I yeah, I just realized that putting other people's feelings over reality and using other people's feelings to determine what I did or what's true or not, that was just not a way to live life to where I could, yeah, stay safe and survive. So I started to just put my safety first in my mind. And it got me to questioning just a lot of different things that I believed of, okay, am I living my best life if I'm believing all of this stuff? And then that started to go into other things. I have or do I have the right friendships? Am I friends with these people for the right reasons, or is it for these really silly reasons? Am I supporting certain policies for the right reasons, or is it because of this thing that I've been taught that probably isn't true? So I guess that's the basic summary. Did have that one instance, and then that kind of got me to question things, and from there I started to question everything, and now I'm here and I question everything. Okay, there was one more question in the Twitter. Let me see. It says YouTube. Okay, I don't see any questions there. I saw another question. Where is it? What do you think about the anti-Israel rhetoric against Israel on the right? Yeah, this is a really good question. I actually have a video about this coming out. So, uh, hopefully tomorrow or the day after. Um, so again, I guess I'll give a summary here, but there will be more to come on this. Um, I don't like calling the the Candace Owenses and the Nick Fuentes and the Tucker Carlsons the right. Um, so I want to kind of start with uh, that. I don't like to do that because I think that when you have this dichotomy of left and right, and then you have like the socialist authoritarians on the left, and then the religious nationalist authoritarians on the right, it makes it seem like both sides are opposites of each other when I think that they're actually the same. I think that really all of these authoritarian collectivist, I mean, in the sense that there are a lot of them are anti-Semitic, um, they really all have the same position, and that is that they hate the West, they hate individualism and Western culture, um, and so when you see all of these leftists going out and or the woke socialists leftists going out and burning American flags and stuff, I think that a lot of these people like the Tucker Carlsons, the Candace Owens, the Nick Fuentes, they would be doing the same thing. They don't call themselves that, but I think they feel the same way. They don't like successful, prosperous, individualist countries, and I think that that's why they hate Israel. It's for a very similar reason that the left hates Israel, because they're too successful. They're not victims enough. That's probably the most I can summarize it down to. Um, yeah, I think it's the same core mentality. I think of just they have their own hierarchy of who is being mistreated or treated too good, and it again has nothing to do with reality. It's just their own feelings of um, them wanting to be seen as victims when they're not. Okay, question from YouTube. What is your opinion on Israeli settlements in the West Bank? Um, so I want to separate this into kind of two questions, because I've seen the term settlement used in different ways. So one being do I support Israelis or Jewish people living in the West Bank? Yeah. I don't see a reason why it should be, I don't agree with the whole idea that you have to have a place that's only Jewish and a place that's only Arab and only Muslim, and you can't mix them or it's bad. I think that's really silly. So there are people who will argue that Jews don't belong in the West Bank because it's not their land or silly stuff like that. I don't agree with that. I think you should be able to live wherever you want. If The second kind of interpretation would be, what do I think about, say, Israeli military presence or like kind of the borders that they have between the West Bank and Israel? And I support those as well. And I support those because of the context of the fact that there are still terrorist groups in the West Bank that are coming into Israel and trying to kill people. I think that I mean, in an ideal world, I think that Israel needs to get rid of these terrorist groups. Like, they should not be allowing this threat to exist near their citizens. I think it's really, really bad that they're letting their own citizens, Israelis, be put in danger because these groups exist so close to them, and I think they should do something about it. But given that they're not going to right now, I think the best thing is to have borders and military presence to ensure, to the best of their ability, that people who want to kill Israelis aren't coming over the border. That, I think, is really important if you don't want people to die. So I guess those are my thoughts on settlement. Unless there's another interpretation of settlement that you're using, and let me know if I didn't quite understand your question, but hopefully that covers it. Um, oh, there's a troll in the. Okay. I usually don't talk to trolls, but someone is asking me why I am not angry at Israeli government because they're defending themselves against Hamas. And I'm not angry at the Israeli government because they are defending themselves against Hamas. Um, I am not mad that Israel is going to kill terrorists and is stopping their citizens from being murdered in the future. And that's that. That's why I am not mad at the Israeli government. Um, all right, let's see. Any Twitter questions? Um, what are your views on Trump? Um, I don't like Trump. I don't like Kamala either. Both of their policies are bad. Neither of them are supporting Israel or Ukraine. And I'm bringing Ukraine into this too, talking about international policy. I think that, as far as international policy goes, the U.S. needs to defend the West. They need to defend our allies, the people who are fighting against enemies that also want to kill us. I don't think that either of them are doing a great job of that. Trump is slightly better with Israel. Kamala is slightly better with Ukraine, but neither of them are perfect. And when it comes to domestic policy, like, they're both atrocious. Trump with his tariffs, and Kamala with her recent wanting to like set government prices, and what was the other thing that she said recently? It was something about, like, big businesses, her trying to stop them from being more successful. I don't remember, but, like, as far as economics goes, they're both terrible. They're bad on international policy. They're bad on almost everything else. They're bad on free speech. I mean, Trump and his administration has been talking about trying to ban TikTok, and I know that Kamala has been talking about putting restrictions on social media. And yeah, I am not happy. Not happy these are our options. Not happy that there isn't anyone who is really in defense of Western values, as I said earlier. I said I think that both of these people are on the same side. I don't think that viewing them as opposites is correct. Both Trump and Kamala are leaning towards authoritarianism and are very collectivist in their policies, and so I'm not a fan of either, but it is what it is. I'm not going to like endorse anybody to vote for. You guys should determine for yourself based on what you think is more important. But yeah, I'm not happy with this election at all. Okay, let's see. Questions. Okay, I'm not seeing YouTube questions, so let's go back to Twitter. Okay. So, what do I regard as the objective standard for judging the morality or immorality of a social system or government? This is a great question. So, I think that to answer this question, I need to start by talking about the purpose of a government. And maybe even before I get to that, just talking about like the reality of the world. So, the reality of the world, and I've talked about this a few times, or I've used this word, is that people are individuals. Like each person is living their own life. Each person is doing living their own life, has different needs, wants, desires. And so that's like the basis of what we need to think about before looking at a government, because governments don't understand everyone's individual circumstance. They don't understand everyone's individual, needs, wants, desires, right? Like I have different needs, health needs, education wants, things I want to pursue, different work ethic, different types of food that I like. I mean, all of these different things, compared to somebody else, compared to probably most of you on this chat. And so when governments have policies that try to pretend like they know what's best for everybody, I think that, I mean, we can actually see that's not even about what I think. We can see that they end up failing, that they end up, I mean, failing in the sense of they end up making people's lives worse and making it so that people are not getting what they as individuals need, want, desire. So I think that first thing is we need to recognize that people need to have the ability to live their lives and do what's best for themselves in order for them to live their best lives. But I do think I'm not an anarchist, though, which is probably what people are probably thinking. Well, if you don't like the government, then you're an anarchist. I'm not an anarchist. I do think that we need a system in any civilized society that protects people from people who want to harm them. A system that protects their rights to their life, liberty, property, the things that people need in order to live their lives. And so my view on government is that a moral government, would be one that defends people's rights, allows them to live their lives the way that they need to, and protects them from people who physically stop them using force, from living their lives. And so I've talked about this in some of my videos, some of my tweets, but this is actually one of the reasons why I support Israel. Israel's not a perfectly free government. Like, it's not the type of government that I would dream up in my mind as being the ideal. There are some things, especially when it comes to their like domestic policy, that I think can infringe on people's rights to do things. I mean, most of it is economic stuff. Like they have some policies that are socialist, but overwhelmingly, if you compare them to pretty much every country in the Middle East, people in Israel are allowed to like thrive and flourish and live their lives, and the government isn't telling them who they can and can't like love, what religion they can practice, what jobs they can have. They're free to fulfill their own needs and wishes and be themselves and do all the things I think are important for just human happiness and flourishing. And so, yeah, that's what I think about how we should judge governments. And I guess social systems would be a similar. There's no like force involved in a social system, but I think that our social systems need to acknowledge the individuality of people. That people have, yeah, different needs, wants, desires, and even different abilities and skills that we maybe some that come naturally and some that we have been worked really hard to achieve or been taught. And all of these things go into how we should treat people, different moralities, all of that. Um, so hopefully that answered that question. Do you consider the current voting system should change? And if so, what would you propose? Um, yes and no. I do think that having more than two parties would help, at least in the short term, of people not feeling so much like there's only these two options and nothing else out there as far as political ideas. But in the long run, I don't think that it's like if we had, four parties and all of them were just as crazy, um, that wouldn't help anything. So I think the biggest issue is more of like a cultural issue of people who are putting up, so many people are supporting these two candidates and supporting a lot of the crazy stuff. I mean, there's so many people who are, yeah, like supporting some of these policies, like the tariffs that Trump is putting out, the uh, government price controls Kamala is proposing, um, their international policy. A lot of people are anti-Israel. A lot of people are pro-Russia. I think that first thing is that these people wouldn't be in power or having the opportunity to be president if there weren't people supporting them. So kind of breaking down those ideas and helping people understand that the ideas that they propose are not going to be in the best interest of Americans. They're going to make the country worse on pretty much every level, culturally, economically. I think that's how we have to start. And yeah, having a few more options might help with that process of people breaking out of this idea of, there's just nationalist authoritarian or socialist authoritarian. But yeah, if we don't change the cultural ideas that are promoting them, then it's not going to do anything. And that's why I do what I do. I want to help like people understand that there are other alternatives to both of these craziness and hopefully help people to think a little bit more logically about the decisions that they make when it comes to politics and voting and even cultural issues. All right, let's go back to Twitter. Are there any more questions? Question: if people call out Europeans for colonizing North and South America, then why are these same people standing up for those who are saying Palestine is Arab land, is Arab land when it literally never was? Um, this is a question that I think I covered earlier in the stream, but it's really just most of these people don't know what's going on in the world. So many of these people who are supporting like Hamas and who are claiming that, I don't know, Israel is a colonizing state, like they don't know about like the Ottoman Empire and the Arab conquests of the area. They've never opened a history book. So as soon as if one person says that they are the oppressed or they're indigenous and that makes them oppressed, then like they just go with it. So I think that it's not that they um I mean, I guess there also is the double standard of them just thinking that everything white people does is worse. Um, that, if a white person does it, it's bad. If a non-white person does it, it's acceptable. But I think for a lot of them, they honestly have no idea. Um, okay, I'm not seeing YouTube questions, so let's go back to Twitter. Um, would you describe yourself as a libertarian? No, I would not. Um, and I know that's probably surprising. This is another video that I've had in the queue, kind of explaining why. But basically, I think if you've seen how many libertarians have been anti-Israel and pro-Russia, like a lot of these libertarian conventions and things that I've seen have had so many like Russian flags, and there have been a lot of libertarians who are saying Israel is committing genocide, which obviously isn't true. But I don't think that I don't libertarianism as like isn't really a philosophy. They consider it like a big tent is what they call it. And so it accepts everyone, no matter everyone who doesn't want the government to grow, but no matter what their underlying reason for it is. Like for me, I want a limited government because I support Western values and individualism. But there are a lot of people who are considered libertarians who don't necessarily support Western values. They just don't like the government. And it can be for a variety of reasons. It can be because government is too secular and they want it to be like they want government to go away so that they can do things according to their religion that wouldn't be allowed under a government. There are people who don't like the government because they want anarchism. They don't believe there should be a system of protecting rights. They probably don't believe that rights exist at all. Um, and then there are the libertarians who are like pro Putin, which is something I don't understand because he's an authoritarian, but they call themselves libertarians. Um, so just because there's so many people who are under that big tent that don't align with the culture and the world that I want to see, I don't see a benefit in aligning myself with that movement and then having to like clarify that I guess like yeah, having to clarify, oh, I don't know, I call myself a libertarian, but I don't agree with anybody else who calls himself a libertarian. That just seems like a conflict, and I don't know. It's not like saving time for me to call myself a libertarian. It's going to cause more questions and confusion. Okay, let's see. Are there any more questions? Um, okay. I don't see any more questions, and I've been on here for a while, over an hour. So I think, yeah, I think I'm just gonna wrap it up here. Um, thank you guys so much for listening. Um, yeah, I shall probably do another one of these, maybe later this week, maybe next week. I'll have to see how quickly I can get something together. But yeah, thanks for listening, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Okay. Mhm.